Have you ever felt a little scared of the person that you're becoming? I have. And for a long time, I did not understand that fear. But now I know something very simple and very powerful. Sometimes courage doesn't feel like just having some kind of bravery. It feels like sweaty palms, pounding heart, shaking voice, and this part of you, this intuitive voice, this soft voice that says, it's time to move forward. It's time to do something different. It's time to get out of your comfort zone and to do something that scares you. And when I listened to that voice, it changed my whole life. Now, I remember back when I was in school, elementary, junior high, high school, I didn't speak much. I was just more of a quiet observer. That was just who I was. And there was it was so funny because I went to my 10-year high school reunion, and this girl that I knew from class were talking and catching up and, well, hey, what have you been doing the last 10 years? And just having some nice conversation. And then she stopped and she said, Diane, I think this is the first time that I've ever heard your voice. I was flabbergasted. I did not realize that it was that obvious or that noticeable how quiet I was. But obviously it was. And so when I first started working in healthcare, I didn't see myself as a leader at all. Like, I was super quiet. I was doing the one-on work with my patients. I was that good listener, and I was the person that people would open up to. They would trust me with their symptoms, their deepest concerns, and their stories. So I just was not that person who, led meetings or made big decisions. And then something happened. There was a situation on our unit where a patient was not doing well. And there was kind of like this feeling amongst the team, not really confusion, but you could tell that the culture was such that nobody wanted to speak up because the environment didn't feel safe. People were scared of being judged or maybe losing their job if they spoke up, or they felt like they were going against the doctor or something. And I just felt deep in my chest, in my heart, this feeling, this sense of knowing. This voice said, no, you cannot not say something. You have to say something. And so I was super scared. I was shaking, my heart was pounding. I did not feel ready to open up with my voice. And I knew I was qualified, because I knew the situation like everybody else, but I didn't want to upset anybody. I didn't want to risk losing my job. And I thought, you know what? To heck with it. The patient is the most important. I am going to speak up. So I spoke up. I got curious. I asked a question, and it brought the issue to the surface, and things started to become clear. And so the team, was really interesting to see because the entire team shifted. It was almost like by one person speaking up, all of a sudden everybody had more courage, right? And it was like leading the charge. It was like setting an example. And so the whole energy in the team changed. It was so amazing. And then the patient got the care they needed. And so it wasn't like, I took charge and was super loud. It was just pausing and getting curious and not being afraid to say something or to ask the questions. So it was clearly a turning point. And courage doesn't have to be loud. And it's often quietly speaking up, almost like testing the ground, testing the situations, like a testing ground, right? And so courage can often be quiet at the beginning. And I used to think that courage was like, ooh, like, fighting dragons with a sword or running into burning buildings, right? Like big courageous things. But for me, courage showed up in those small everyday moments where I was going to be visible, where I was going to speak up when it was necessary. So this was like telling the truth and sometimes people don't want to hear the truth. And so it can be very uncomfortable, but speaking the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, like for example, saying what we're doing here is not working. Just saying that one simple statement, right? Sometimes people are too afraid to say it. Say it. This is not working. Or being honest about yourself to say, I'm tired. I'm starting to feel really exhausted. And it can be even courageous asking for help, right? And a lot of times people, when you're a professional or when you're a leader, when you're in different positions, you almost feel this pressure like you need to know everything. And so sometimes admitting that there's things that you don't know can be scary, right? Admitting that you don't know everything can be a scary thing. And so I remember one of the hardest truths that I had to speak was the day that I said the healthcare system that I had been in now for 22 years was actually hurting people. Those signs that say one issue only today. Those visits that were too short so people weren't even heard. I had to say, our system is hurting people. It's hurting patients, it's hurting staff, and it hurt me, right? And so walking away from my practice, from my union job, which was supposedly stable, and walking away from my retirement plan, that took courage, right? Because it wasn't just a job I left, it was an identity, it was a security, it was a secure place where I was, supposedly looked after. And it was like a version of myself that was in a supposedly safe employee style identity, right? But if I wouldn't have stepped out of that, if I wouldn't have made the leap, which was a very scary step, then I wouldn't have had the time and space to build frameworks. Like, for example, I developed a listen framework for healthcare transformation to earn my master's in business degree in health leadership and to become the leader I am today, right? So if I wouldn't have stepped out of that, if I wouldn't have released that part of me, then I never would have achieved the next level, right? So the truth is, sometimes courage means letting go of a part of you so that a more important or even a deeper part of you can come to the surface and be visible. So I remember not long before I left the system when I sat in my car after work and I cried. And it was not because I didn't love the patients I cared for, but because I felt the heaviness of this system on my shoulders. And I was like, I just knew something had to change. But here's the part that most people don't see. Because before you can create change in a system, you have to change yourself. You have to be able to look in the mirror and say, I'm going to have to be different, and I deserve to lead differently, right? I deserve to feel heard. I deserve to feel like I can be my authentic self. And I deserve to grow into the leader that I needed when I was younger, the leader that I needed when I was a nurse, the leader that I needed when I was a nurse practitioner, right? Because I have had my share of amazing leaders, so I could see, oh my gosh, this is the way it needs to be done. And it was so powerful, because when you have an amazing leader, the team is incredible and the patient care is also incredible. But on the other hand, when you have a leader who is terrible, micromanaging, command and control, like terrible leadership, the entire team is impacted, and then you see it trickle down to the quality of patient care, right? So this is why leading differently and being courageous to step out and say, no, I can see the kind of transformational leadership that's necessary to make healthcare great again. I can see it. So this is what gives you the courage to step out and to become the kind of person that's necessary to do that. And so there's 3 truths about what courage really looks like. So I'll just share what I have learned. So truth number 1, courage feels very uncomfortable. You might feel shaky, sweaty palms, heart pounding, uncertain, scared to make a decision, really stretched. Honestly, but it's good, because it means that you're about to expand into something really important. Truth number 2, courage does not wait until you are ready. So if you wait until you feel qualified, till you're finished another course, till you hit your magic 80, if you wait until maybe a new supervisor is coming into your clinic, if you wait until, and ... there is an endless list of things that we could wait for, but you'll wait forever. Because the truth is that courage grows by actually being used. So we actually have to step out of our comfort zone in order to build courage. Truth number 3, courage changes other people. So when you act with courage, even in small little ways, like I did when I asked a question and I was curious about something and I spoke up and said, this is not working. When you act with that courage, these are just small, quiet things. It sets an example. You give other people almost like this quiet permission to also rise, and your courage becomes a light for others. So your courage does change other people. So as I stepped into this chapter of becoming a healthcare leader, where I was teaching leaders, not being afraid to speak the truth, building healthcare systems that helped not only patients, but helped staff, it helped doctors. Like, all stepping into that chapter felt scary at first, because this was no longer the small, quiet Diane anymore. This was somebody who had something to say. I was a woman with a vision, right? I could see the pattern, the solutions, and the pathways based on all of my work inside the system, outside the system, in multiple areas, urban centers, huge hospitals, ICUs, rural centers, home care, inside long-term care facilities, right? I could see the patterns. And so I had to ask myself a really brave question. So if I stay comfortable, if I stay small, who does that help? Nobody, right? It doesn't help patients. It doesn't help my clients. It doesn't help leaders. It doesn't help our teams. It doesn't facilitate change or improve the healthcare system. And it definitely does not help the patients who deserve better. So now I choose courage. Even though sometimes my palms are sweaty, my voice is shaking, and my heart's pounding and I feel scared, but I choose courage to act despite the fear. So if you're watching this, maybe you're standing on the edge of something really important in your life. Maybe you feel that little voice. Maybe you're scared to facilitate change or to become the leader that you're meant to be. But I want you to know this. Courage doesn't mean that you don't feel fear. Courage means you're going to feel that fear, like, the heart pounding, the sweaty palms, all of it, but you're going to be willing to walk forward and take those steps anyway, because you don't need to be loud. You don't need to roar. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to take the next courageous step. So it is just one step at a time. And that is what's going to build your courage. So if this message touched something inside of you, I would love for you to subscribe to this channel. I share stories about health transformation, leadership, courage, and becoming the version of yourself that you were maybe scared to become. So we're on this journey together. Thank you for being here, and I will see you on the next video.